Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Pretty Lies and Alibis. I'm Gigi Fruit Loop. What you know?
All right, here's a fun fact. Did you know you lose up to 30% of your taste buds during flight?
During what?
Dude, during a flight, during an airplane flight, you lose 30% of your taste buds. No wonder the food don't taste good.
I know, right?
Yeah, it's the elevation in an airplane has a detrimental effect on your ability to taste things.
That is weird.
Yeah,
Every time now that you do your little random fact, I just want to say, do you know the human head weighs 8 pounds?
I know, right? I love that part of that movie. It's so funny.
Okay, so I don't know what I've got myself into, Fruit Loop, but I haven't told you this. By the way, you guys should know, literally within a millisecond of each other, Fruit Loop and I texted, "Hey, are we still good for 8?" And she was like, "Hey, what's the document name?" So, like,
Yeah,
within a millisecond, we just roll that way.
yep.
Okay, so I don't know why I've agreed to do this. I probably should tell you all goodbye now because I'm probably gonna die tomorrow. But I have agreed to start going to Planet Fitness with Mason, my son. Don't you even start laughing. Don't you even.
You better tap out now.
Dude, and get this, on the days that we don't go to Planet Fitness, I'm going to yoga, hot yoga with Taylor.
You
I'm gonna
better
get
tap out
my
now.
six
Taylor
pack
ain't gonna
back.
last in hot yoga either.
Girl, can you imagine me in hot yoga and have a hot flash? Like, I will die a death right there in the
You'll
yoga if I
combust
don't
right
die in the
there.
Planet Fitness tomorrow.
It'll be poof, you gone.
See, I'm limited though because of my knee and my hip, so, like, I'm gonna be rowing
Yeah.
and cycling. So
Hey,
we
rowing ain't no joke.
No, I know. I know. Well, I wish I could do kickboxing. I love it, but, like, my knee, y'all, I'd kick that thing and be down.
Hey, I will tell you this though. So being a diabetic, pizza is like the most unfriendly thing you can eat. And
Mhm.
it's really good. Like I love pizza.
But it
But I
runs your sugar up to, like, 1,000.
yeah. Well, tonight we had um it was keto pizza. It was so good.
Oh,
Dude, it didn't even it run my sugar up 50 points, which if it runs your sugar up 50 points or below, you're good.
yeah, because usually pizza, you'll be, like, in the 300s.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
crazy. I'm not gonna lie, I'm not gonna change my eating habits even though I'm going to the gym. Some things are not worth sacrificing.
Dude, that's a waste of time.
Dude, I'm gonna be on the little rower with a donut in one hand.
Yeah.
I'll be the one that brings, like, Krispy Kreme to all the trainers.
That and you have your coffee in your camelback and
Yeah,
stuff. Yeah.
yeah, there you go. See, you're giving me all these terrible ideas, but
There you go.
he's into fitness and yeah, so we, are going to kind of, well, first, sorry, it's Monday, y'all. It's the Mondayest Monday ever. Talk about our amazing sponsor, Two Cool T-shirt quilts. One of our listeners, who was it?
Sheila.
Sheila, picked your team. You whipped my fanny. So she gets this really cool pillow. So
Yeah.
we want to thank Andrea at Two Cool T-shirt quilts. You can go to twocooltshirtquilts.com/pretty lies and alibis and see what she can do for you. Here's a thought I had about the next live. Okay. Do you know, like, the old game where you people submit questions and it's like, how well do we know each other? So if somebody were to ask, what's each other's favorite movie? What's each other's favorite song? Or something like that. It's kind of like a newlywed game, but, like, we're not newlyweds, but like the best
Okay.
friend game. You know what I mean?
Song would be bad because you like too much music. So don't
Okay.
ask that
Well,
question, anybody.
maybe not song, but you see where I'm going with this. Like, we've been best friends for 30 years. I kind of think I know you,
Yeah.
but I might not.
Yeah.
That would be fun. So I'm just throwing around fun ideas for the next one. So let us know what if you guys have any ideas.
Yeah.
So we are going to jump into the Pike County Massacre. We have not talked about this case, like, in depth
Yeah.
for a while.
Yep.
So if you are newer to the podcast, we have done a very detailed deep dive into this case. And so you can go back. I'm actually in the process of organizing our YouTube into playlists because a lot of people have asked us to. And now that I'm watching certain things on YouTube, I appreciate a good playlist. So I'm working on it, y'all. But you can go through our YouTube or our Spreaker or Apple or wherever you listen. And we have several episodes telling the backstory on this case. And so, real quick, for those of you who are not familiar, this is a case way back in 2016 in Ohio where a family of 4 murdered 8 people from the same family in one night, and it all stemmed from a custody dispute. Really great. This is literally the biggest investigation in Ohio's history. It was crazy. So just for we always talk about the long road to justice, and we mean it when we say it. And I like days because it puts it in perspective. So it's been 2,139 days since the murders on April 21st into the 22nd, 2016. 1,023 days since the Wagners were arrested on November 13th, 2018. So you see, over 2 years, there were no arrests.
You have Miss Bonner for math. It was technically, guys, it's 1,203 days.
What did I say?
1,023.
Dude, I'm not even trying to be funny. I swear to God, I think I'm dyslexic. I mix numbers up all the time. Don't even laugh because you sat right next to me in Miss Bonner's class, which was like one step above the resource class. Okay, guys. I mean, really, if I had to do math to save my life, bye.
I told somebody that today. There's no more general math in high school. I would not pass.
Look, when my kids have math issues, they know. Don't even go there with mom because your answer's going to be, I don't know.
They would come to me and I said, I took the same math your mama took. Don't come to me either.
But their dad's like a math whiz. So
yeah.
The problem is it ends up with tears at the table. So, all right. So what's coming up hearing wise in this case? Well, there's a lot. Motions hearings for March the 7th, May the 2nd, and May the 16th. April 4th, they're having a hearing to dispute or argue about the shoe print evidence that was found at a few of the scenes of the murders, whether or not to allow that. July 5th through the 14th is jury questionnaire and seating. August 8th through the 12th and the 15th through the 19th is jury selection. So George Wagner IV, which is the oldest son, his trial is set, I believe, for August 29th. I've seen a couple of days thrown out there. And I don't know how in the world this is going to happen, but they say this trial is expected to last 30 days. No clue how you finish in 30 days. And the state is calling 335 witnesses.
No way it'll be done in 30 days.
They're going to be having testimony when Jesus comes back.
Yeah. They're going to be 95.
Yeah. Well, okay. So a little more backstory. You have the mom, Angela. The dad is Billy. Then you have the youngest son, Jake, who was the ex-boyfriend of one of the victims, Hannah Roden. And then they had a child together named Sophia. Sophia was the only daughter of theirs together. Hannah had another baby with somebody else. So Hannah and Jake's child was the center of this custody dispute. And it's been a while, and I just found this out, and I feel so bad. Leonard Manley, Dana's father, grandfather to Frankie, little Chris, and Hannah, who were all murdered, he passed away in December.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I feel so bad. I mean, he just never got to see justice, but at least, man, bless his heart. He was, I always felt so terrible for him. He lost his whole family just about.
Yeah.
So, Jake and Angela have both pled guilty, and they will testify against Billy and George IV at trial. So far, the dad and the oldest son are taking it to trial. So Angela pled guilty to 14 lesser charges, including conspiracy to commit aggravated murder, several counts of aggravated burglary, and tampering with evidence. Prosecutors dropped the murder charges against her. I believe she had like 8 murder charges. She will receive 30 years and no chance of parole in those 30 years. She'll be in her 70s before she's eligible. And Jake took the guilty plea, and in doing that, it took death off the table for him and the rest of his family. But here's the thing, and this has been the source of a couple of hearings. The prosecutors aren't going to drop that death penalty until Jake testifies essentially the way he told them he would. And that's been the source of some hearings, but as of right now, the judge has not forced the state to take that death off the table.
Well, you think about it, if he were to back out, then they'll
Right.
have to
I
try
mean,
to.
that could be a little game
Yeah.
to get them off death, and I believe he admitted to shooting 5 of the 8 victims. So he led investigators to 5 cement buckets on the Flying Farms property, which I believe that's Frederica, the grandmother's farm. And
Yeah.
in that, they found 3 of the guns used in the murders and a knife. I think there was some DNA found on that as well. There could possibly be more they found, and he also led them to 2 of the vehicles used the night of the murders. One of those vehicles was bought specifically to carry out the murders. I believe either he gave the car or sold it to somebody shortly after. And a corrections officer made a report on July 6, 2019. This is just stuff that I'm finding, saying that Angela asked the corrections officer if she could get bond because her sons did this and not her.
Okay, we know that, and we need to. Can you explain the allegedly
Yes.
for
So,
entertainment purposes only?
yeah. So when we say allegedly, we were told that to protect ourselves because, like I got kids in braces and kids going to college. I can't get sued right now. All of this stuff is allegedly for entertainment purposes. And when I say entertainment purposes, we don't mean that we're making fun of anybody. Okay.
Yeah.
Had a
Yeah.
comment that just sort of flew all over me a little bit. So,
Yeah. Yeah. We're not making light of anything or making fun of anybody. We're
no,
just telling you
that's
to
not how
save
we
money.
roll. I hope you
Yeah.
guys know that by now. We make fun sometimes, but we're not ever gonna get down and dirty
Yeah.
and go
Yeah.
there. So,
Mm.
all right, you pick up here, Fruity Loopy.
So a roommate of hers told correction officers Angela asked her how to change her appearance and get a fake ID if she gets bond. Really? So May 13th, 2021, a piece of mail sent to Angela tested positive for meth. The officer tested it because she noticed smeared ink, and they had issues where smeared ink had tested positive. The same sender sent another package in July, and it again tested positive for opioids.
Opioids.
Opioids. That's a weird word.
It
Um,
is.
the
Say it 4
same
times
thing.
fast.
Do the same thing again in December. Tested positive for possible meth or fentanyl. That's awesome, dude. What the world? What the world? That gets a big what the world. Um, so October 7th, 2021, during a pod search that was suspected of having drugs in George the Fourth cell, officers found a Bible with a white powdered substance in it, and also found a needle with ink. He was placed on a 5-day lockdown.
A white powder substance in the Bible. That is not what Jesus would do.
Maybe it was just powder.
Mhm.
It was some baby powder.
Ain't no baby powder in the Bible.
Uh, so the defense for George IV wanted to suppress audio recordings. The state obtained warrants and permission from the trucking company that George IV and Jake worked for to bug the truck they were driving. Defense. I'm talking about some
Defense.
basketball. I'm
You feel
talking
like
about
a cheerleader.
basketball.
Defense.
Defense. Yeah. The defense said it violated constitutional rights. The state said they obtained lawfully interception warrants. They trying to get it. They trying to throw everything out.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, you gotta. He's taking it to trial, which, I mean, apparently Jake told prosecutors that George did not shoot anybody. But here's the thing, it goes back to that whole thing. He helped plan this. And not
Yep.
only that, but if you're riding with your buddy and you know he's going to rob somebody and somebody gets murdered, you get the murder charge, just like the dude that planned it.
Hey, I'm gonna tell you. Even if you didn't know they were gonna murder somebody, you get
Yeah.
thrown in the pokey just like everybody else.
Here's the thing, this family's very weird. Like, they're a unit. They flow together, and so much of all this chaos, they were all in on it. It's a very weird possessive family that
Yeah.
just it's odd.
Yeah.
I'm close to my family, but, like, our finances are not intertwined, and, My kid, I don't want my kids to call my mom. It gets weird.
Yeah, it's weird. So the state says that the majority of the criticisms from the defense are actually requirements imposed by the statute outlining the application requirements for wiretaps. Jake and George were residing in the truck for 24 hours a day, 5 days a week at the time it was bugged. Ain't no telling what's on that tape.
Oh man, no, there's a lot.
Yeah. So the defense objected to the state introducing 34 prior acts. He says they were committed by someone else and are not relevant to him. Some of these acts are Jake's abuse to Hannah Roden, controlling her and their daughter. Jake threatened to kill her and hide her body where it wouldn't be found. Jake asking Hannah to name him as the father of her second child, even though it wasn't his. Defendant and co-defendants controlling behavior when Hannah would stay with them. Jake and co-defendants spying on Hannah, including her social media, spying when their daughter was with her. George the Fourth reporting back to Jake about Hannah, the defendants wanting Angela to raise and be considered Sophia's mother. And again, Sophia is Jake and Hannah's daughter.
Yeah, so they had these big, custody of Jake's child with Hannah, and then George the Fourth's son with a woman named Tabitha. It's like their whole world revolved around getting these kids and having them.
Yeah.
It's just anyway. So some more acts, and I understand some of what the defense is talking about here, because Jake's abuse of Hannah, it what they're saying is it could prejudice the jury, even though he had nothing directly to do with that. And I kind of get that. I mean, I'm going to tell you, I am more excited about this trial than any other trial coming up this year, because the crime was so brazen.
Yeah.
And they went into what, 4 different residences and killed people. And
Yeah,
they
it's
did it
big.
one. I mean, the morbid side of me wants to know, how did they do it? How did they pull it off to where at one point there's suspicion on the family of
Yeah.
the victims? They moved to Alaska. The Wagners moved to Alaska. Jake remarries in Alaska.
Yep.
They have both the kids up there, and then they move back. And it's just you hate to say somebody planned something very well, but they did, because for a long time it was thought to be drugs. They had
Yep.
marijuana growing farms. So, you see how the investigation really started out with, and there are people in that town who still to this day think these guys were set up and that they're innocent. It's going to be a great trial.
Oh yeah.
So, some more of the acts that it's kind of like prior bad acts, I guess you would say. George the Fourth and his family's control over Tabitha Clayton, which was George the Fourth's significant other, when she lived with him, including her fleeing the residence after they threatened to shoot her, and their control over the child Tabitha and George shared. She signed over her custody rights under false pretenses, and they didn't allow her to see their son unless another Wagner family member was present. They had George and Tabitha's son refer to Angela as mom.
That's freaky.
Well, if you remember, that was some of the things that they saw on social media when Angela and Jake were hacking into those Facebook accounts, was Tabitha and Hannah were talking, the 2 girlfriends, and Tabitha told Hannah, do not let them bully you into giving full custody. She regretted it, but it got so bad the night that all this blew up. If you remember, Tabitha ran out in the dark, or ran and hid on the property until it was dark so she could leave.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's how scared she was.
Yeah.
And they
No
alleged
joke.
that I'm sorry, what?
It's no joke. Like it's
No,
serious stuff.
it's oh man, these people are so controlling.
Yeah.
And they alleged that Tabitha wasn't allowed to contact her family while she resided with the Wagners. While in Alaska, the Wagners threatened Jake's new wife. Her name was Elizabeth, and they also threatened to kill her family if they came over. They would spy on Tabitha and
If
her
they
mother's social
visited,
media. What?
if they visited, they would kill them.
That's what they said they would do. I mean, look, they
Wow.
killed a family of 8. I wonder,
Golly.
did this girl even Google her husband? How do
Well,
you
I
marry
mean,
somebody who's associated with a murder? But at the time, they weren't. I guess they weren't suspects.
nope.
Um, so they were spying on Tabitha and her mom's social media accounts. Their goal was to keep their child away from Tabitha for a year so that in court they could claim that she abandoned this boy as a strategy for custody.
Wow.
So the co-defendants became upset and the co-defendants being Angela, Jake, and Billy, when they became upset when Jake's wife Elizabeth was called mom by Jake's daughter, who at the time I think maybe she was 2 or 3. And they also monitored her social media and they hired a private investigator to watch her while they were in Alaska. So in this filing, they also mentioned multiple instances of arson at various properties of the Wagners for financial gain, as well as theft by the family, such as shoplifting, stealing gas, tractors, and trailers. They talk about Billy Wagner, who's the dad, threatening the mom, Angela, with a gun. That would be his wife. Allegations that Billy Wagner had threatened to kill others before. The defendant's family involvement in transporting and engaging in drug trafficking, trying to obtain a mortgage by committing fraud. I had never heard that drug trafficking until now when it related to the Wagners. Now, we know the Rodens had some marijuana operations. It wasn't a big deal. It was probably enough to give them some extra cash, but
Yeah.
it wasn't like cartel style. Also, Billy and co-defendants threatening Chris Sr. with a gun within a week of his murder. Chris Sr. was the dad. And making threats to investigators who were working the case, making a plan to bust whoever was arrested for this out of jail. And they say that ultimately this family functioned as a unit the entire time. They didn't make any decisions without consulting each other.
Wow. It's just crazy.
It is crazy. These people are psychopaths.
Yeah. When you look at and when you guys go back and if you want to go back and listen to them,
Yeah.
when you listen to the breakdown we did of this case, it is just insane how
Mhm.
they went from place to place, knew everything.
I mean, they stalked them. They knew who was coming home at what time, who was not there at what time. I mean, they jammed their trail cameras, if you remember. I
Mhm.
mean, and like the one thing that when I think it's Bobby Joe Manley is one of the sisters. She was the one that found some of the bodies. And she said, whoever did this, they had to know because those dogs would have eaten them up.
Yeah.
But, like, ultimately, for a while, she was under suspicion, and all she did was found the body. She went to the trailer with, Frankie and Hannah Gilley, the one person that wasn't blood related. Um, and their little boy came to the door. I think he was 3 or 4.
Yep.
And remember, she said it smelled like, copper in the house, and he was covered in blood. And I think the little boy said something like, "Daddy's a zombie," or
Yep.
something to that effect, but for a while, she was under suspicion. It's just it
Yeah.
and even if you've listened to it, I mean, like, go back because we cover so much that sometimes you forget all these little crazy details. I'm gonna be all over this trial. It's gonna be streamed as far as I know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Really ready for this one. It's time too. This family's waited since 2016
Yeah.
for justice.
Well, this is a good catch up.
Yeah, yeah. It's a
Catch up.
great I could talk about this case for hours.
Yeah. It's a lot of information.
A lot.
Yep. So is this a good place to stop?
Um, yeah, well, we could do this Barry Morphew real quick,
Okay.
just because I said we were gonna do it, but what we've decided, guys, is the Husel trial, Dr. Husel, a lot of the testimony is really technical, and if we were to do kinda like we did with the Chandler blah, 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 blah. Okay, let's try this again. With the Chandler Halderson trial, where we give you pretty much everything that was said that day, you guys would be asleep. This is all very technical medical dosage, medical diagnosis stuff. So we're gonna try to probably do the Husel trial maybe once every 3 or 4 days.
Well, I will say this. I've read almost all the comments on our sharing of that case, and there's been a lot of people comment about they had family members that were in that same situation and they see nothing wrong with what he did.
Yeah.
That's the majority of what's coming out from people who are listening to us.
Well, I'm surprised at that, to be honest, because, true crime, you wanna see anybody who does bad. Like I said, I think the biggest problem with this case is going to be proving murderous intent over compassionate care. Although today I did watch a little bit of testimony. They had an expert critical care doctor on there who said that was enough to kill elephants. This is essentially like driving 250 miles an hour in a school zone with kids crossing the road. So, but he's a paid expert witness. I get that. I'm still very on the fence. I don't know.
Yeah.
But any medical professional that I have talked about or talked to about this case says, look, these people were dying. They were not going to get better. These were all people that had catastrophic events happen that put them in that situation, and death was imminent. And the one thing too that every doctor has said to me that I've talked to about this is it's not just for the patient, it's for the family that's sitting there waiting for the minute they take their last breath. And so when you come off the vent, you can have this thing, I forget the medical name for it, but it is essentially a auto response of breathing that is very traumatizing to watch your loved one lay there and do. So a lot of them feel like, okay, did he give a little bit more than he should have? Yeah, probably. But the intent was not to traumatize the family and have their last memories be gasping and just this automatic uh body response. So
Yeah.
anyways, let's knock out this Barry Morphew stuff. It's not a lot, and then we will pick up tomorrow.
This is some new stuff out that was out Friday. The judge granted the defense motion to sever the murder charges against Barry Morphew from the charge that he possessed an illegal firearm. His defense said there is no connection between a supposed firearm shortened 20 years ago and the murder case. Uh, so the judge said it wouldn't be fair for a jury to sit through a 5-week trial and, depending on their verdict, tell them they're not released until they consider an illegal weapons charge. So the prosecution would have to present that to a different jury. Prosecutors told the judge that they made a mistake in their written argument to the defense motion. They acknowledged that the shortened rifle couldn't have been used to fire a tranquilizing dart, which is how prosecutors think Barry killed Suzanne. That by saying the gun was not used to fire a dart doesn't mean that they're saying it may not have been used in a homicide. The judge granted a motion to exclude certain evidence and to prohibit prosecutors from using profiling and what was termed victimology. The defense said prosecutors will have to prove that she is no longer alive and argued that her pattern of life is relevant to prove that. Defense attorneys questioned how expert witnesses could testify about her routines and complained that prosecutors have failed to disclose what their witnesses will testify to. The state assured the judge that they won't profile him as a wife killer. Where was that? The judge denied the defense's motions to dismiss charges of tampering with evidence and attempting to influence a witness. He also identified several motions by both sides to limit public access to certain documents. They have 7 days to explain why they shouldn't be released. The prosecution was denied an extension to provide the defense with a witness list. The judge ruled that a March 4th deadline will stand. The judge said that was a deadline previously set last fall by Judge Murphy and should have had plenty of time.
Look, I'm going to tell you right now, I'm not a lawyer, I'm not a judge. From the outside looking in, it seems like the prosecution really is disorganized, and they're going to have to get this together, because I do think this is going to be a hard case to get 12 people to agree on.
Yeah.
There's so much reasonable doubt, even though you and I both feel he did it. But the prosecution, it's almost like they're shooting themselves in the foot a little bit here.
Yeah.
It's been a hot mess express.
We know from Rob Wood, who these people are some of our famous people. I mean, favorite people. They're famous and favorite, I guess. But how strict he is with everything he does.
Mm-hmm.
And it's got to be right.
Yeah, you got one shot.
Yep.
And I do feel like that they charged him a little quick because I think maybe they were worried he might run or something. I don't know, but I'm telling you, every time, even back before we were covering this case, it seems like I constantly read comments, the prosecution screwing this up big time.
Yeah.
So, anyways, he's going to trial in April. We're ready for that one too. It won't be televised, but we will keep up with it. So that's all we have for tonight. We will catch up on the Husel trial maybe in a couple of days. I think tomorrow we're going to try to do the text messages from the Gilbert document dump that we did not do. Another thing popped up and we kind of abandoned it for a while. So tomorrow we're going to go through all these crazy text messages from like Lori, Zulema, Alex, that
Yeah.
whole, band of misfits. So it should be a good episode. We will see you then. Hope you have a good rest of the night.